Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Rich in the Philippines. Why am I rich? Because that's my name. Today we're going to talk about something really close to my heart. It's kind of a little bit involved, and so as always, I want your feedback, and that's flying to the Philippines. Getting here, obviously it's not an easy task, and I've talked about that on my last video about how that you really have to want to come here, and sometimes it's a little disenjoining, frightening. How are you going to get here? How am I going to fly here? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Tips, tales, and traveling. So first off, let me kind of preface this all. I've been flying since about 7 or 8 years old, and I love flying. My favorite airline back then was called TWA, and my favorite feeder airline was called Ozark Airline. And I still love traveling, except back then, when you're a kid, they let you into the cockpit, you get wings. I still ask for wings. And back in the day, they used to keep the door open so you could actually watch the pilot fly the plane. Not so much anymore. So getting back to the subject, and that's flying to the Philippines. So tip number one, as I see it, is door-to-door time. How long will it take you to get here? And when I say door-to-door, I mean from the moment you wake up that day to the moment you arrive that night and get to your hotel, get to wherever you're going, how many hours is it going to be? That's what I call door-to-door time. So at a fairly young age, I thought to myself that the least amount of time is the best for your wallet and is the best for your body, really. Because, I have an expat friend who, again, just went back. He has door-to-door times of like almost 2 days, 40 hours, 42 hours. I think my longest door-to-door recently was my trip back to the Midwest from the Philippines, and that was 32 to 33 hours. And I had to get up and go to work in maybe 10 hours. It was a grueling first and second, third day of my trip. So for me, when I book my trip, I always say, okay, how long? What are my layovers? And again, your goals, your priorities may be different. And I'd be really interested to hear down below, is it just cost? I've seen flights, normal 4-hour flights here that they want to book you, to take 10 hours. No thanks, I don't want to do that. So tip one for me is going direct as I can. Now, that's really not possible here in the Philippines, just depending on who you fly. I said it before and I'll say it again, that PAL owns the route. I know that I think they just let United in, or United now has flights, and other airlines have flights too, but I'm talking about door to door. So whether it's LAX or SFO, for me, those are the shortest routes, and I've flown that route every time I've flown here to the Philippines. So I have been here 3 times, so back and forth 5 times. So I have a little bit of experience on the door-to-door. And the last one I flew, going there was a nightmare. That was the long door-to-door, and I couldn't help that. On the way back was a little bit better, and I flew out of LAX the last 2 times. So door-to-door, that's one of my first tips. How long will it take you to get there? The number 2 tip that I always tell people about when they travel here, and again, we haven't picked the airline, we haven't gotten any of that yet, but my second tip is your seat. Now, I've had people, we had a contributor here, he actually said that PAL offered him the seats around him, on the same row, 1 and 3, and so he actually took that, and so he had 3 seats. I have never been offered that, and I haven't really met anybody else besides him, I don't think, that has told me that. And if you can get that, that's great. So my first time here was really eye-opening. Now, I had done a lot of traveling. I told you I was in the military. I have flown extensively in Europe and some in South America and a lot in America. I hadn't done the Asian route ever. So this was new to me. And it was quite a surprise, the check-in at PAL and SFO. I'd never seen anything quite like it. I was just surprised that I didn't see chickens and goats in the waiting area. With that being said, I really put forth an effort to pick my seat. So I said, okay, emergency exit, window seat. Nobody in front. I'd have some room, I thought. Great. And I paid extra for it. This is my first flight over. And this is the second time this has happened. And I want to say that there's a saying goes that if you want to make God laugh, make plans. I went to great lengths on all this, got there early, so forth and so on, was right on the luggage. And I'm going to be probably politically incorrect on this or ruffle some feathers, whatever. But in walks a gentleman, very nice guy, and he probably weighed close to 400 pounds. He sits down next to me. And I must tell you that I was pissed. And again, I don't want to body shame. It is what it is. And he sat next to me, and it was the most ridiculous, horrible feeling I'd ever had, because he spilled right into my seat and literally pinned me up against the window. And I wasn't going to have any of it. And again, I told you I had patience issues, and there was actually words exchanged, and I'm probably lucky that I didn't get in more trouble. However, his husband sat across in another aisle, and he said, well, do you want to swap seats with me? And I had gone to great length, paid extra for that seat, and at first I'm like, dude, I shouldn't have to pay extra. No, I shouldn't have to swap seats with you. Anyway, to make a long story short, I did swapping seats, and I ended up having two seats as it was. However, they were in the middle of the aisle, the two seats. So it all worked out okay. The point is that the best laid plans of mice and men. But I'd say pick seats carefully, no matter what. And the third issue that I really investigate is that I do in depth on the airline. I've flown some great carriers in my time. I've probably flown all the American ones, and American Airlines, United, Delta, Pan Am, TWA, and I used to love USA Air before they were sucked into somebody else. And I've flown quite a few of the I don't want to call them cut rate, but the cheaper airlines. I did Frontier. It was okay. I'm not a big fan. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not a big fan of Southwest, and I just don't want to fly them for many reasons. I just don't want to fly them. I did fly, I think it's called Spirit or Sprint. I think it's Spirit. And my experience was very interesting. One airline I flew in the last 3 years, I waited longer for the luggage than the actual flight. And they were very apologetic. And look, our airlines have been through a lot across the world. It's not just us. And our plane manufacturers, man, that's a whole other issue, and it's sad. With that being said, I've had a lot of experience. So I think that PAL owns the route, Philippine Airlines. And I have had pretty good luck. And now some of my friends will tell me that PAL's expensive, and maybe it is, but again, they own the route, I think. And so I picked PAL. And so my next tip is booking. How do you book your flights? In the old days when I flew a lot, and we all used to fly a lot, there were these things called travel agents. And travel agents were great. I mean, you would say, okay, travel agent, I want to go here and here. I want a direct flight, and I need this much luggage, and I need to go at this time. And they would say, sure, no problem, Rich. Boom, boom, boom. Here's your itinerary. If you have a problem, call me. Here's my, for me, here's my home phone number. And I did have a problem one time on a flight. So she actually had booked me on a flight it was kind of complicated. That's what travel agents are great for. It was a flight to Amsterdam, 3 days in Amsterdam, rent a car, and then drive to Germany, through Belgium and all these different countries, and then drive back into Amsterdam, which was crazy. I don't recommend it. The point is, there was a flight snafu, and I missed my flight, and she took care of me. So then along comes online booking. Again, so tip 1, what's the time frame? Tip 2, where you're going to seat. Tip 3, who's your airline? Tip 4, how you're going to book it. So I booked Expedia. I jumped on that bandwagon as soon as they came out, and I had decent luck with Expedia. The challenge I have with Expedia, and especially the airlines now, if you book through Expedia, and let's say you're flying AirAsia, they're going to tell you, if you have a problem, too bad for you. Call up Expedia. There actually, at some of the airlines, there's actual signs that say, if you didn't book through us, don't cry to us. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but not by much. So who are you going to book with? When it came to my flights to the Philippines, I booked directly with Philippine Airlines. I called them on the phone, and I talked to somebody in the middle of the night. I think it was middle of the night for me in America, and it was their daytime, obviously. And I developed some relationships with some of the customer service people. I was able to call them back a couple times. So on every flight that I've done to the Philippines, I did it by phone. And then, of course, they email you right away with your itinerary on all your confirmations. The point of that is that, and I call it who you're going to book with, is that if there's a problem, you call directly to the person to the people who booked the flight with you. So that's, and I have a lot of other expats. And again, tell me what you think below. They fly through Korea, they fly through Qatar, they fly through, a bunch of different countries to get the best rate that they think that they can. Whether they're coming from Texas or Florida, it's interesting to hear people's train of thoughts, and it kind of revolves around money and what you think, is a good deal. And that's kind of the other thing too, is book far enough in advance as you can. That's, the other thing, which is not brain surgery, but sometimes stuff happens, people get sick, people pass, whatever, and you have to get going like that. I understand that. You're going to have to go for the best route, the best flight, the best cost you can get. Which leads me to the last point of this video. I stumbled across a travel agent here in the Philippines, and I love her. I'm going on a trip, and I'm taking somebody else with me, and it's kind of complicated. Isn't life kind of complicated? So I needed a round trip and a one-way and luggage and this and that and this, and I couldn't do it online. I didn't want to do it online. And so I told her what I wanted, and I'm putting their name and their contact information here because I recommend them, especially for traveling here in the Philippines. They do a great job. Now, for traveling from America to here, here's the issue with this travel agent, and with a lot of businesses here. They're not going to pay the credit card companies astronomical fees that the credit card companies want. And so it's a cash business, almost strictly cash business or Gcash. It's just, let's just say cash. But again, having that person to talk to, and some people need it and some people don't. I'd be interested to hear what you think and what you say below, because there's lots of ways to go. I'm just telling you about what works for me and what I suggest. So let me know what you think. And again, the travel agent contact info is right here. Really appreciate your support in the channel. This has been Rich in the Philippines.